The worst moments of life often arrive with a sentence you did not expect. We need to talk. You didn't get the job. I don't love you anymore. The test results are back. In a few seconds, the future you had been quietly living inside can vanish. And then comes the deeper danger. Not only what happened, but what your mind begins to do with it. It tells you this should not be happening. It tells you that you cannot bear it. It reaches into an uncertain future and fills it with disaster. It turns one insult into proof that you are worthless, one failure into a permanent identity, one loss into evidence that life has become unlivable. Epictetus knew this inner spiral well. He lived nearly 2,000 years ago, born into slavery in the Roman Empire, and yet his teaching remains startlingly direct, because it begins where so much suffering begins, in the judgments we attach to events. By the end of this reflection, you will see why his lessons are not distant ideas from an ancient classroom. They are practical disciplines for meeting criticism, uncertainty, anger, disappointment, and fear without surrendering your mind to them. Epictetus did not offer comfort by pretending that life is fair. He did not promise that wise people avoid pain, rejection, illness, or loss. His philosophy is more demanding and more liberating than that. He asks a question that can change the quality of any difficult moment. What, exactly, is yours to govern? That question sounds simple, until life puts pressure on it. You can prepare carefully for an interview and still not be chosen. You can love someone sincerely and still be misunderstood. You can make responsible decisions and still face an outcome you never wanted. You can wake up determined to be calm, then receive one message, one glance, one accusation, and feel your entire inner state placed in someone else's hands. Most people live this way without noticing it. Their peace depends on an employer's approval, a partner's mood, a stranger's comment, an algorithm's response, an investment's movement, a body that never gets sick, a future that continues according to plan. They call this normal because it is common. Epictetus would call it a dangerous arrangement. His most famous teaching appears at the opening of the Enchiridion, a compact collection of his ideas. Some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. What is up to us includes our judgments, impulses, desires, aversions, and the use we make of impressions. What is not up to us includes the body and its vulnerability, property, reputation, office, and the actions of other people. This distinction is often reduced to a slogan: control what you can control. But Epictetus was reaching for something more exact. He was not saying that you can control everything through positive thinking, nor that you should stop trying to influence the world. You can train your body, improve your work, speak honestly, seek medical care, build a relationship, and prepare for a challenge. These things require effort, but the final result does not belong entirely to you. You can influence an outcome without owning it. That difference matters. When you confuse influence with control, you become anxious because you are trying to possess what cannot be possessed. You may do excellent work, but you cannot command recognition. You may communicate with patience, but you cannot command understanding. You may act with integrity, but you cannot command justice from every person you encounter. Your task is not to become passive in the face of this reality. Your task is to become precise. Consider the person, waiting to hear whether they have been accepted for a job. Their mind keeps returning to the same question. Did they like me? Did I say the wrong thing? What if I never find another opportunity? They replay the interview, searching for a detail that could restore certainty. But the decision is no longer in their hands. The interview is over. Epictetus would not tell them to stop caring. He would tell them to care about the right thing. Did you prepare honestly? Did you present yourself as clearly as you could? Did you answer with courage rather than performance? Did you act according to your values? Those things are yours. The hiring manager's decision is not. The moment you see this clearly, the waiting does not become pleasant, but it becomes cleaner. You no longer need to spend your strength trying to mentally control another person's judgment. You can return to what remains available: your next application, your next conversation, your conduct during uncertainty. This is one of Epictetus' deepest lessons. Freedom is not getting whatever you want. Freedom is refusing to make your inner stability dependent on what you cannot command. That may sound severe at first. We want the world to cooperate. We want people to be reasonable. We want the people we love to stay. We want our plans to work. And there is nothing shameful about wanting these things. The problem begins when desire becomes a demand issued to reality. Epictetus saw that the more fiercely you demand external events to obey you, the more easily you can be wounded by them. If your peace requires that no one criticize you, you have made yourself a servant of every careless voice. If your worth depends on being admired, you have handed strangers the authority to define you. If your happiness depends on a future outcome, you may spend the present moment in perpetual exile. The alternative is not cold detachment. It is a stronger kind of attachment to your own character. For Epictetus, the one thing that truly deserves your highest concern is the quality of your moral purpose, what he called prohairesis. This is your capacity to choose, judge, consent, refuse, act, and respond. Circumstances may limit your options. They may bring pain. They may take away comforts, status, health, and security. But they do not automatically take away your ability to meet those circumstances with honesty, courage, fairness, and self-command. This was not abstract theory for him. Epictetus was born around the middle of the 1st century in Hierapolis, in what is now Turkey. He was enslaved and brought to Rome. Later, he gained his freedom and became a teacher. We do not possess writings directly composed by him. His student Arrian recorded his lectures in the Discourses and assembled the Enchiridion from his teachings. There are stories about Epictetus having a damaged leg, though the details are uncertain and later accounts should be treated cautiously. What is certain is that he understood what it meant for much of life to be determined by forces beyond personal preference. Perhaps that is why his philosophy has so little patience for self-pity, disguised as helplessness. He does not deny suffering. He denies that suffering gives you permission to abandon your own mind. A difficult person enters your life. Perhaps it is a colleague who takes credit, a family member who provokes every conversation, or a friend who becomes distant and evasive. Your first impulse may be to make them finally see what they are doing. You rehearse arguments. You collect evidence. You wait for the perfect moment when your explanation will force them to become fair. Sometimes a direct conversation is necessary. Stoicism does not ask you to accept mistreatment silently. You may set boundaries, document misconduct, leave a harmful environment, seek support, or speak plainly. But Epictetus would ask you to separate your action from your fantasy of controlling the other person. You can say what needs to be said. You cannot force understanding. You can offer honesty. You cannot force remorse. You can leave with dignity. You cannot force someone to recognize what they lost. That realization can be painful because it ends a certain kind of hope, but it also ends a certain kind of captivity. You no longer have to keep returning to the locked door of another person's character, asking them to give you the peace that only your own judgment can provide. This leads to another of Epictetus' most powerful lessons. People and events do not disturb us as much as our judgments about them. The exact formulation is preserved in the Enchiridion. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. The language is ancient, but the insight is immediate. An event occurs, then your mind interprets it. It says, "This is unbearable. This is humiliating. This means I will always be alone. This proves they never respected me. This cannot be repaired." Sometimes the interpretation is accurate. Sometimes it is partly accurate. Often, it is an emotional verdict delivered before the evidence has arrived. Suppose someone criticizes you in a meeting. You feel heat rise in your face. Your heart beats harder. Before you have even left the room, your mind produces an entire story. They think I am incompetent. Everyone agrees with them. My reputation is damaged. I need to defend myself immediately. Epictetus would not ask you to deny the sting. A public criticism can hurt, but he would ask you to pause before adding your own violence to the moment. What happened? A person spoke critically. What have you added? That you are ruined, exposed, powerless, and permanently diminished. That pause is where discipline begins. The Stoics used the idea of impressions. An impression is the first appearance of something to the mind. An insult, a frightening headline, a hostile expression, a sudden pain, an alarming message. Impressions arrive quickly. You do not always choose them, but you can examine whether to assent to them, whether to treat them as true. Epictetus urges you to meet an impression by saying, in effect, you are an impression, and not at all the thing you appear to be. This does not mean reality is unreal. It means your first reaction is not yet a verdict. The message from your manager may mean you made a mistake. It may also mean they are stressed, unclear, impatient, or reacting to incomplete information. The silence from someone you love may signal distance. It may also signal exhaustion, grief, distraction, or a problem they have not yet explained. The body sensation that frightens you may deserve medical attention, but it does not automatically prove the catastrophe your anxious mind has announced. The wise response is neither denial nor panic. It is examination. What do I know? What am I assuming? What part of this requires action? What part is simply fear trying to become prophecy? This discipline can change the course of a day, not because it removes every emotion, but because it prevents emotion from becoming a tyrant. Anger is one of the clearest examples. Anger often feels like strength. It gives you energy, certainty, a sense of moral clarity. Someone was careless, disrespectful, dishonest, cruel. You feel the urge to strike back with words sharp enough to make them regret it. But Epictetus understood that anger is usually built on a hidden demand. You believe another person should have acted differently. Perhaps they should have. But the second you turn that moral fact into an internal command over their behavior, you become vulnerable to rage every time a flawed human being behaves like a flawed human being. This does not excuse wrongdoing. It changes your posture toward it. If someone lies, you can name the lie. If someone harms you, you can protect yourself. If an institution behaves unjustly, you can resist and work for change. The Stoic question is not whether you should act. It is whether you can act without first surrendering your reason to fury. Marcus Aurelius, who was deeply influenced by Epictetus, repeatedly reminded himself that people act from their own confused judgments of good and bad. That does not make harmful behavior harmless, but it can stop you from taking every offense as a personal invasion of your soul. When someone insults you, they reveal something first about their own judgment. Your response reveals something about yours. This is especially difficult in relationships, because we do not merely want fairness from the people close to us. We want recognition. We want them to know our intentions without our having to explain. We want them to see our effort, protect our vulnerable places, and respond wisely when we are hurt. Sometimes they will. Sometimes they will fail. Epictetus offers a hard but clarifying lesson. Do not demand that events happen as you wish. Wish for them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go smoothly. This teaching is easily misunderstood. It does not mean approving of every event. It does not mean preferring illness, betrayal, injustice, or grief. It means beginning with reality, rather than fighting the fact that reality has arrived. When a relationship ends, there is a period in which the mind keeps arguing with the past. This was not supposed to happen. We were supposed to make it. They were supposed to stay. The argument may be understandable, but it cannot change the event. And while you are arguing with what is already true, you cannot meet the life that remains. Acceptance is often confused with liking. They are different. Acceptance says, this is here. This has happened. I will not waste my remaining strength pretending otherwise. From there you can grieve, ask questions, learn, forgive if appropriate, or walk away. But you will be standing on solid ground. The same is true of loss. Epictetus sometimes used language that modern listeners may find stark. He advised people to remember the mortality and impermanence of what they love. When you kiss your child, he suggested, remembering that the child is mortal, the purpose was not to poison love with dread. It was to make love more awake. We tend to live as if people, health, youth, possessions, and ordinary days are guaranteed. Then, when change comes, we feel not only sorrow but outrage. Yet, life never gave us a contract. The people we love are not objects placed permanently in our care. They are fellow travelers, granted to us for an uncertain time. This is a difficult thought, but it can deepen affection. When you remember that a familiar evening is not promised forever, you listen more carefully. You put down the phone. You say the kind thing now rather than assuming there will be another chance. You stop treating the presence of another person as part of the furniture of your life. Seneca, another Roman Stoic, wrote often about the shortness and fragility of life. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that everything he saw would soon change. Epictetus turns this awareness into a practical training of attachment. Love fully, but do not pretend you own what you love. There is grief in that. There is also gratitude. One of the reasons people resist Stoicism is the fear that it will make them emotionally distant. They picture a person who never cries, never celebrates, never cares enough to be affected. But Stoic strength is not numbness. It is the refusal to let pain turn into self-destruction, or let pleasure turn into dependence. A person can feel grief and still act with dignity. They can feel fear and still do what is necessary. They can feel anger and still choose not to become cruel. They can feel love without trying to possess another person. Emotional suppression says, do not feel. Stoicism says, feel what arises, but do not hand your judgment over to every feeling that passes through you. Epictetus was especially concerned with desire. If you desire only what is truly within your power, he argued, you become much harder to frustrate. This does not mean shrinking your life until you want nothing. It means learning to direct desire towards something that cannot be taken from you. A good use of the present moment. You can desire to respond to criticism with steadiness. You can desire to work diligently, whether or not applause follows. You can desire to be a faithful friend, a responsible parent, a courageous employee, a decent human being. You can desire to meet difficulty without lying to yourself. These aims do not make you invulnerable, but they give you a form of success that survives bad news. Think about how much of modern restlessness comes from wanting things that depend on other people's approval. You post something and keep checking the response. You accomplish something and feel empty because the recognition is smaller than you hoped. You enter a room and quietly measure whether you are admired, included, noticed. Your mood rises and falls according to signals that were never fully yours to command. Epictetus would say that you have traded inner freedom for externals. Reputation is not yours. It belongs to other minds. Status is not yours. It is granted and withdrawn by changing circumstances. Even the body, precious as it is, does not obey every command. To build your identity entirely on these things is to build on unstable ground. This does not mean you should neglect them. Care for your body. Build your skills. Protect your reputation through honorable conduct. Enjoy beauty, friendship, comfort, and achievement. The Stoics did not treat all external things as worthless in the ordinary sense. Health is generally preferable to illness. Friendship is preferable to isolation. Security is preferable to danger. But preferable is not the same as essential to virtue. This is one of the distinctions that gives Stoicism its backbone. External conditions may be valuable, but they are not the final measure of whether you are living well. A person with comfort can be cowardly, dishonest, self-absorbed, and miserable. A person facing hardship can remain courageous, just, disciplined, and internally free. That freedom becomes visible when motivation disappears. Many people can act well when they feel inspired. They can exercise when they are excited, work when praise is coming, stay patient when life is easy, and pursue goals when progress is obvious. The harder question is what you do when the feeling is absent. Epictetus repeatedly returns to training. Philosophy, for him, was not a collection of beautiful statements. It was practice. A person who reads about courage but flees every discomfort has not yet learned courage. A person who admires self-control but obeys every impulse has not yet learned self-control. He compared the aspiring philosopher to an athlete. You do not become strong by discussing weights. You become strong by lifting what is difficult, repeatedly, with discipline. In the same way, you do not become calm by waiting for a crisis and hoping wisdom will appear. You train in smaller moments. You train when the alarm rings and you want to bargain with yourself. You train when you are tempted to send the message that will only inflame the conflict. You train when you want to complain for the 5th time about something you cannot change. You train when you feel the urge to check for approval again. None of these moments looks dramatic, but character is built there. Musonius Rufus, Epictetus' teacher, emphasized the practical discipline of philosophy in everyday life. He taught that virtue required training, not merely instruction. This is important because people often wait to feel ready before they practice restraint, courage, or focus. The Stoic approach reverses the order. Practice first. Readiness grows through action. If you are trying to become more disciplined, do not make grand declarations every morning and collapse under ordinary temptation by noon. Choose one small place where your actions can become more deliberate. Finish the task you promised yourself you would complete. Take a walk without carrying your phone. Eat without needing every desire immediately satisfied. Pause before replying when irritated. The purpose is not to become rigid. It is to prove to yourself that an impulse is not an order. That is a profound discovery. The urge to avoid discomfort says, stop. The urge to distract yourself says, escape. The urge to retaliate says, strike back. The urge to impress says, perform. Yet between the urge and the action, there is a space. That space is where your freedom lives. Epictetus would tell you that you are not your first impression. You are the one who decides what to do with it. This becomes especially valuable when fear arrives. Fear often demands immediate certainty. It wants a guarantee that you will not fail, be rejected, get sick, lose money, disappoint someone, or look foolish. But no such guarantee exists. The attempt to secure one can make your life smaller and smaller. You avoid the conversation because it may go badly. You do not apply because you may be rejected. You never begin the work because it may not be perfect. You remain in a damaging situation because the unknown seems more frightening than the familiar pain. Epictetus offers a different approach. Do not ask whether the future can be made safe. Ask what virtue the present situation calls for. Does it call for courage? Does it call for patience? Does it call for honesty? Does it call for careful preparation? Does it call for letting go of a demand you can no longer justify? Fear loses some of its authority when it is translated into a practical question. The future may still be uncertain, but your next action becomes clear. A person facing a medical test cannot control the result, but they can make the appointment, ask informed questions, accept help, and refuse to spend every waking hour rehearsing a disaster that has not occurred. A person whose company is unstable cannot guarantee employment, but they can update their skills, manage their finances, speak to contacts, and remain present with the work in front of them. A person who fears rejection cannot control someone else's answer, but they can speak honestly and survive the answer with self-respect. This is not toxic positivity. Stoicism does not tell you to insist that everything will turn out well. It asks you to become someone who can meet outcomes well. That is more realistic and more powerful. There is another lesson in Epictetus that can feel uncomfortable in a culture devoted to self-expression. He believed that before you declare yourself a philosopher, you should show it in your conduct. He was suspicious of people who could speak elegantly about virtue while living carelessly. For him, philosophy was visible in how you handled insult, appetite, inconvenience, money, and responsibility. There is wisdom in this for anyone trying to live with greater strength. You do not need to announce every intention. You do not need to turn every private discipline into a public identity. Let the work become visible in the quality of your presence. Let people notice over time that you do not become frantic when plans change. Let them notice that you can hear criticism without immediately breaking or attacking. Let them notice that you keep your word in small things. Let them notice that you are less interested in winning every argument than in seeing clearly. This does not mean becoming silent or weak. It means placing substance before performance. Epictetus himself taught in a world saturated with hierarchy, ambition, public image, and political uncertainty. Rome could elevate and destroy people quickly. Reputation mattered. Patronage mattered. Power was often arbitrary. His response was not to deny the reality of these forces. It was to refuse to make the soul answerable to them. You may not live under an emperor, but you know smaller versions of the same pressure. The pressure to appear successful. The pressure to be liked by everyone. The pressure to react instantly. The pressure to turn every disappointment into a verdict on your worth. The discipline of Epictetus is a refusal to live on those terms. It begins with noticing where you have placed your peace. Perhaps you have placed it in a person's affection, perhaps in financial security, perhaps in a career path, perhaps in being seen as intelligent, kind, attractive, indispensable, or right. Again, none of these things is inherently wrong to value. But ask yourself, if this were threatened, would I lose my capacity to act well? If the answer is yes, then your attachment has become too heavy. The Stoic aim is not to have no preferences. It is to hold preferences without becoming their prisoner. You can prefer success and still survive failure. You can prefer health and still preserve your character in illness. You can prefer a relationship and still remain whole if it ends. You can prefer praise and still tell the truth when praise disappears. This is the strength Epictetus offers, not a life without loss, but a self that is not erased by loss. And yet, no one masters this once and for all. Even the Stoics knew that philosophy is a daily return. You will still wake up anxious sometimes. You will still take things personally. You will still feel yourself reaching for control where none is available. The point is not to become perfectly untouched. The point is to recognize the movement sooner. You catch yourself replaying an insult for an hour. Pause. What is up to me now? You notice that you are trying to force an uncertain future to become certain. Pause. What preparation is mine, and what result must I release? You feel anger building as someone behaves badly. Pause. What response can I respect tomorrow? You feel disappointment because life did not follow the script you wrote. Pause. What does reality ask of me now? These questions do not always bring immediate comfort. Sometimes the honest answer is that the moment asks for endurance. Sometimes it asks for an apology. Sometimes it asks for a boundary. Sometimes it asks for action that will be difficult and unrewarded. But at least you are no longer wasting your life arguing with the nature of things. Epictetus believed that people suffer when they mistake temporary externals for their true good. The job, the praise, the comfort, the approval, the outcome, the possession, the body as it once was. These things matter, but they cannot carry the weight of a human life. What can carry that weight is character. Character is not a brand. It is not the image of being strong. It is what remains when no one is applauding, when your plans have failed, when you are tired, when you are misunderstood. when you could choose the easier lie and no one would know. It is the way you speak to someone who cannot benefit you. It is the way you meet an inconvenience that no one caused. It is the way you carry disappointment without making everyone around you pay for it. It is the way you return, again and again, to the part of life that is truly yours. There is a quiet dignity in that return. You stop waiting for the world to become manageable before you become steady. You stop postponing peace until everyone understands you. Every plan succeeds, every risk disappears, and every desire is satisfied. Life may never provide those conditions, but this moment is here. Your judgment is here. Your next choice is here. That is enough to begin. Perhaps the sentence you feared has already arrived. Perhaps you are still waiting for it, carrying a private anxiety that no one else can see. Epictetus cannot promise that you will be spared pain. No honest philosophy can. But he can remind you that no event has the final authority to tell you who you are. A rejection can hurt without defining you. A betrayal can grieve you without turning you bitter. A failure can instruct you without becoming your identity. A frightening future can remain uncertain without stealing the value of the day you are living. The next time your mind races toward disaster, do something simple. Name the event plainly. Separate it from the story you are adding. Then ask, what is mine to do, here and now? Maybe it is one honest conversation, one application, one apology, one boundary, 1 hour of focused work, one decision not to retaliate, one act of care towards someone you love while they are still beside you. That is how Stoic freedom becomes real. Not in grand speeches, but in the moment you refuse to abandon your own judgment. If this kind of reflection helps you stand more firmly in a difficult life, Stoic Against Chaos is here for that work. But for today, carry Epictetus' lesson with you when the next disruption arrives. Guard what is yours, your mind, your character, and your next choice.